Hello, and welcome to Somerville Neighborhood News. Today is April 22nd, and today is Earth Day. I'm Em Nguyen.
And I'm Andrew McLeod. Somerville Neighborhood News is a community service production of SCATV put together by staff, interns, and your neighbors. We bring you the news every 2 weeks right here on Channel 3 and also on our website, scatvsomerville.org.
Tonight, our reporters bring you a story about how people and organizations are mobilizing to make sure their voices are heard as plans advance for the Union Square. We look at the multicultural fair at the Somerville High School, and you'll head to WGBH TV with the high school quiz team again.
We've also got a story about one of the 9 new officers who recently joined the police force. And we bring you an in-depth look at the plight of dozens of high school students who arrived in this country as children.
But first, let's have a look at some news and upcoming events. Well, it's back to the drawing board for the Powder House Community School property. At a meeting last month, city officials announced that they were opening the process up again. We'll be looking into this issue in an upcoming newscast.
Somerville's top models will be hitting the runway on May 1st. Come to the Arts at the Armory, 191 Highland Ave, to attend Beyond the Pattern runway presentation exploring the interface between art and fashion. It's part of Somerville Open Studios. The Young Designers Challenge this year is a group from the Somerville High School Fashion Club. The show is free and starts at 7. Doors open at 6. Come early if you want to be sure to get a seat.
In recognition of Earth Day, we wanted to make sure everyone knows about several recent reports on climate change. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is a group of scientists who research and advise the UN on climate change. The panel released a new report earlier this month with dire warnings. The scientists said that the impacts of human-induced climate change are already, quote, severe, pervasive, and irreversible. The report can be downloaded at ipcc.ch.
Another prestigious association has also raised the alarm. The American Association for the Advancement of Science just announced a new campaign to educate people called What We Know. Check out the video and read or download documentation at whatknow.aaas.org.
And here's more environmental news from closer to home. Almost 100 professors at Harvard recently made their headlines when they signed a letter demanding that the university purge its endowment of all investments in oil and coal companies. In other words, fossil fuels. Harvard has the largest university endowment in the country, about $33 billion.
The Harvard professor's letter came out just as South African Archbishop Desmond Tutu called for a, quote, an apartheid-style boycott to save the planet, end quote. Writing in the Guardian newspaper, Tutu said he wanted all governments and institutions to divest from fossil fuel companies.
Tutu was crucial in the anti-apartheid movement in his country and in the global campaign to get universities and other institutions to sell their shares in South African companies.
In his article, Tutu wrote that it is the responsibility of all people to stop climate change. He said, quote, who can stop it? Well, we can. To find the article published on April 10th, go to theguardian.com and search for Tutu and the word climate.
There are organizations and individuals right here in Somerville who are already asking the city to sell its stocks in oil and coal companies. To learn more about the campaign, at the end of the program, we'll be joined by Shoshana Blank of Fossil Free Somerville and by Mark Niedergang, alderman for Ward 5.
Now to the news. Every year, some 65,000 undocumented youth graduate from high schools in the United States. Many of them, at least a dozen, and maybe many more, right here in Somerville. Reporter Marcelo Brosiner and news director Jane Regan bring us more.
I'm 18. I'm a senior. I was a soccer captain on my senior year. I currently have a 3.5 GPA. The schools that are recruiting me are Merrimack, UMass Lowell, UMass Amherst.
Great grades, a star athlete. But this Somerville High senior, and many others like him, doesn't have the same options as his classmates. He's undocumented.
I was 13 when I came here. I adapted fast to the cultured. I would do my homeworks every night. I was junior, senior, and then I realized that the situation about going to college is not just having good grades or being good at some sport.
Mitchell Freitas had a similar experience.
In my senior year, I kind of hit a little bit of a desperation point where I didn't know what to do, you know. I had to apply to colleges, but I didn't know what colleges would take me because I was undocumented. There were no scholarships, little scholarships available to me, so I was kind of in a tough situation. The feeling of seeing all my peers around me, you know, filling out their FAFSAs and just applying and getting the driver's license and getting all these amazing jobs, it was horrible. I remember that at times I would get home and I would break down. I would break down into tears, honestly, because I had worked my whole life, you know, studied hard, worked hard to achieve something once graduation came around, and it was kind of like all the doors of the world were sort of shut to me, you know.
Every year, 65,000 undocumented youth graduate from high schools across the country. In Somerville, the number might be a dozen, but it might be much higher. Students are not obligated to disclose their status. Undocumented students are not eligible for most grants or financial aid, or even in-state tuition. School counselor Ann Hertzberg tries to help those she can.
One of the hardest things I see every year is students who have done everything right in high school. They've taken the right classes, they've tried, they've excelled, they've reached out in the community, gotten involved, been captains of sports teams, started new activities, kind of everything that you would hope a student would do in U.S. high school sort of 4-year experience. And because of their status here, they're unable to find a place that will accept them and will give them the financial support that they need to be able to attend a 4-year college especially. Part of my job as a guidance counselor is helping all of my students apply for college. So when I start talking to my students, especially in the junior year, the beginning of senior year, I have to let them know that the college application process, and especially the financial aid process, is very different depending on their status in the U.S.
I think we need to ask them to resend it to you.
As an immigrant myself and as a counselor, it's hard for me to not believe in the American dream, that students can be here and be successful and work hard and achieve. And every time I see them doing everything that they need to be doing and not able to get that last step of getting a diploma, getting the recognition, the success, the scholarships, whatever that they deserve, it really, really breaks my heart.
I go to bed every night, think about it. Sometimes my mom sees me crying and then she's asked why, and I just don't like talking about it because I don't want to hurt my parents that they have been working so hard for me to attend college.
Students brought to the United States before 2007 can apply for DACA, which means Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. DACA recipients get a work permit and access to some financial aid.
Somerville has a large number of students that do qualify for DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. The students did have to be in the country prior to June 15th, 2007. So for the students that I work with, the vast majority actually came after that date. But in the city of Somerville and in Somerville High School, we had many students that qualified. I probably had about 10 students that qualified.
But many did not.
I arrived in the United States in January 27, 2009. So I was 2 years late.
Students like the soccer player are in limbo. If it passes, the DREAM Act would provide some relief. Congressman Michael Capuano backs the bill.
That I am a supporter of the DREAM Act, but I am a supporter of the DREAM Act pending passage of comprehensive immigration reform. If and when we can ever get to a decent comprehensive immigration reform, I'm hoping that the DREAM Act will then no longer be necessary. I look at it as a temporary necessity, as a bridge to where we really want to be. Look, I mean, you can make an argument every day of the week as to about adults who may have come here illegally or usually stayed here illegally, and that's fine. That's one part of the discussion. I just don't think it's a valid part of the discussion to include children who really didn't choose their life. They're pending in limbo, and I think they're wasting their future. We are wasting their future on their behalf. I think it's a terrible tragedy.
We were born here, basically. I mean, we might have been born in another country, but we are basically Americans, where I don't see any other life other than living in the United States. where all my culture has been Americanized and the way I speak has been Americanized. We're Americans and we want to make this country great. We want to work and contribute to our society here.
Mitchell Freitas was lucky. He got his green card at the last minute and was able to attend college. Today, he works at a bank. But the soccer player isn't so lucky. He might go back to Brazil or maybe attend community college if he can afford it. Until comprehensive immigration reform passes, tens of thousands of kids, just like the soccer player who grew up right here in the United States, are stuck in limbo. Reporting for Somerville Neighborhood News, and with the help of Marcelo Brosiner, I'm Jane Regan.
It's tragic, and I really wonder how long it's going to take for an immigration reform law to be passed.
I have no idea, but Congressman Capuano urged that everyone who can vote to vote in every election.
Next, here's a story I did about the Somerville High School quiz team. Remember how earlier this winter the team beat out Nantucket High School? Well, that win put them into the quarterfinals.
The Somerville High School students returned to WGBH in February for the next round of the quiz show. This match against Sharon High School is the first time Somerville High has ever gotten to the quarterfinals.
I'm excited, but I'm a little bit nervous because I think it's going to be a little tougher than last week. Well, this team has already won their first round, so that's true. So they've shown they've got some skills.
Yeah, I can literally. And a cell phone left on could interfere with the microphones on the set. In either case, if you're at fault, Somerville!
Today's quarterfinal matchup, Somerville High School. We've got Celine, Miles, Graham, and John. Let's hear it for Somerville High.
To see who won, tune in on Saturday, April 26th at 6 p.m. on WGBH Channel 2. For more information, check out highschoolquizshow.org.
This next story is also from you, right, Em?
That's right. And I had the privilege of spending time with some of Somerville's finest.
Last November, the Somerville Police Department added 9 new officers to its ranks. Deputy Chief Michael Cabral took part in the interview process for the new recruits.
They're diverse, they speak a second language, most of them. There's a lot of camaraderie that occurred in the police academy, but since they've come on the street now, they've really developed into fine young officers. They all have promising careers. It's really a breath of fresh air when you get new police officers that are really dedicated to the community. This group of 9 is probably some of our best hires.
One of the new hires is a Portuguese woman, Cassandra Gonçalves.
We actually had about 5 or 6 different female candidates in the group, which we thought was fantastic because that was our largest group of female candidates. Cassandra was actually the only one that made it through the entire process. And that speaks volumes for the type of person that she is. She went to the academy, and while in the police academy, she really proved herself.
We graduated in November 15th. Stand by. And we've been in patrol ever since. We did 2 months of field training, and now we're all on our own.
There are hardships, and sometimes there are prejudices. You know, sometimes people think that a female officer can't do what a male police officer can do. But you know what, Cassandra will have to deal with those issues just like everybody else. And I can tell you that her upbringing was proper, and that she's the type of person who's respectful, she's honest, truthful, very polite.
I'll find out in a few minutes. I'm gonna go like Cal.
I was basically the first generation of my family to be here in the United States and be born here. You know, coming here from a different country and essentially starting all over and building a family is tough. And for them, you know, they did, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinions, I would say that they did very well. You know, they put me through school, they put me through college, and I've had a roof over my head and food on the table. A female was unresponsive, and we got on the scene. And once you leave that call, you don't know what has happened to that person. So, they put her in the ambulance. To this day, I don't know if she survived or if she passed away. That's someone's grandmother, that's someone's mother, that's someone's wife, and to see, her husband standing there next to her, he's kind of helpless. It's just one of those moments where you're like, wow, But, yeah, the hardest part is just not knowing what happened to her.
Doesn't matter what day, doesn't matter what time, doesn't matter what shift, doesn't matter really where you are. As a police officer, your life is in danger at all times. It doesn't really matter if you're on the day shift or on a midnight shift. It's a dangerous profession, and it takes special people to be police officers.
That location, they're GOA. There's no bus here or car. Basically wanting to be that person that's, when something goes wrong, you're the person that responds. You're the person that, helps people. Just always something that I know I've wanted. I can't really pinpoint a reason or give you a time frame of when I really just dawned on me that I wanted to do it, but it's just one of those gut feelings where you just know that this is what you want to do, and that's the only way that I can really explain why I chose to do it. These three, we were sworn in as police officers, and we took an oath that we were going to serve the community and serve these people.
Somerville today is safer than it's ever been. Crime is at an all-time low. Somerville's changing. It's a very exciting city. There's a lot going on. The police department is just one part of the success of what Somerville is all about today.
The 9 new officers are hoping to play their part in building a safer future for the city. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Em Nguyen.
That was great. Now, let's go to the Somerville Journal to see what's in next week's paper.
Hello, this week in the Somerville Journal, we'll have the latest on the former Somerville teacher accused of trafficking child pornography. We'll have a closer look at the stricter ethics ordinance proposed by Mayor Joe Curtatone, and we'll have full coverage of the Patriots' Day celebration. You can always check us out online at wickedlocal.com/Somerville and follow us at Ville Journal. And you can get in touch with me at 617-629-3385 or datkinson@wickedlocal.com.
Here's a story that all the news outlets have been following: the Union Square redevelopment. Some people are nervous that the process is moving too quickly and that residents and locally owned businesses might be left behind.
Some business owners have been circulating a petition asking for a seat at the table.
Well, we'd like to create an alliance if we can get more info what's going on in the area. At least to tell us what's going on, Don't just leave everything on blank until the last minute, like they did with the taxes.
I think the first thing we're asking for is a meeting with the city to discuss concerns. And I think it's useful that we're getting together to start the conversation with each other.
A group of Union Square residents are also hoping to influence the process. And at an April 9th meeting, a collection of groups led by the Somerville Community Corporation presented the Community Advisory Committee with a document they call Equity Standards.
Tonight we are really excited to present our Equity Standards, which is a document we've worked on for the last year with partner organizations. We think that this document can be really valuable as you consider the different bidders for the Union Square redevelopment proposal.
The document suggests guidelines for things like the number of local jobs, affordable housing units, and amount of open space.
We heard from a lot of business owners and local residents that they're not aware of what's going on, and that when they did hear about the redevelopment project and process, they think it's moving too quickly. We want to make sure that as our city changes, it's changing in an equitable manner.
Ward 2 Alderman Marianne Houston was also present.
Where the rubber's going to meet the road is once somebody is chosen. What the process really, for me, will begin then. It'll be working with whoever is chosen to make sure that, the things that are important to people in this community get recognized and respected and worked. And I'm not saying I'm against development. I'm absolutely not. In fact, I'm very excited about this. I've waited for this my whole life. I've grew up here, and I can't wait to see what will happen. But I also can't wait to see how we can influence what will happen, and that's the important piece.
As the alderman said, the rubber will meet the road once the master developer is chosen. And that's when the participation, transparency, and equity being asked for by the residents and the small business owners will be crucial. Will those equity standards be met? Will small business owners get a seat at the table? We'll be watching. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Jane Regan.
Our last story is from Somerville High School student reporter Marcelo Brosiner. He recently attended the school's multicultural fair.
We want to welcome everybody to our 16th annual Multicultural Fair. It is a day of celebration where all of the students in the school really come together and share their food, their culture, their dance, their music, and appreciate each other. We're very lucky here in Somerville that we have that opportunity. Not many cities do, but we have just about every country. We have 40 countries represented here.
Of those 40 countries, 9 countries, along with Latin America, performed dance routines choreographed by the students. It was a culmination of a lot of after-school practice.
My favorite part is being able to practice for so long, and it's finally a relief to finally present it to everyone and show it after all the practice and hard work.
Alright, I think that my favorite part is being able to share with everyone else a little piece of my culture.
And my favorite part has been experiencing their culture because I'm not Brazilian and I've got to take part in this festivity.
My favorite part of Multicultural Fair is probably the dances itself, because you get to see all the different cultures and how people dance. It's pretty cool.
Students bring in food, they prepare a dance. When they bring the food, they're making it with their parents. And they're cooking together as a family. And this morning when I came in, all of these families came in. The parents, the father, the mother, they all came in and brought the food that we're all going to share today. And so it's maybe it's one big dinner of us sharing the food while we have some entertainment on the side. But it's our way of celebrating who we are. All we need to do is to let people see that there are other people in the world and there's other cultures and food. Taste it, you know? That's why it's so important to taste everything, you know? And you don't even know if you're going to like it, but you're going to appreciate that country even more when you like their food, right? So I think it's very important. They get a lot out of it. It's a great education. It's a great way. They don't even know they're learning probably, but they are, because the tables also have information about each country. So the students are asking questions and they're learning about that country and tasting a little bit of food and watching a dance.
There's no better way to celebrate the diversity at Somerville High School than with great people, great food, and great performances. Reporting for the Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Marcelo Brosino.
Last, in honor of Earth Day, we decided to take a closer look at the campaign to divest the city employees' pension funds of all fossil fuel investments. Shoshana Blank of Fossil Free Somerville and Mark Niedergame, alderman of Ward 5, joins news director Jane Regan.
Thank you very much for coming to the studio today. Shoshana, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the organization?
Fossil Free Somerville started over a year ago when a bunch of climate change activists in the area realized that this national campaign for fossil fuel divestment was happening at universities and colleges. It's actually international. And also then it was starting to happen in cities. And we decided that Somerville would be the perfect place to start up a campaign. Climate change is the most devastating issue that our world faces right now, and we all feel that Somerville can do its part to say, we don't stand for this, and we're not going to put our money in these companies that are essentially causing climate change with their dirty fossil fuels.
We were talking a little bit before the interview about the anti-apartheid movement and that divestment movement. And didn't you say that Massachusetts had a role in that divestment movement also?
Yes, actually, Massachusetts was the first state in the country to divest its pension fund from South Africa. And soon, a few years after, when Nelson Mandela came to the U.S., he stopped in Massachusetts right away and thanked us for that.
And how is the divestment movement going for the fossil fuels?
So over 20 municipalities in the country have decided to divest. San Francisco, Seattle, even Cambridge in Massachusetts, their city council has voted on it. And actually 5 of those cities are in Massachusetts, so it's going pretty well.
Mark, I know that you and many other aldermen have said that you agree in principle with this, and I think also the Mayor Curtatone has said that he agrees in principle with divestment. So how's it going up at City Hall?
It's an interesting situation. The actual decider in Somerville is a 5-person retirement board that oversees the pension fund and its investments. So the mayor, the board of aldermen, has no official influence on this. We may have some moral influence by speaking out. And so we received a petition from 129 residents that Fossil Fuel Somerville organized these people, asking for a public hearing and asking that the board of aldermen pass a resolution urging the retirement board to divest from fossil fuel investments. Before we could discuss it, we were told by the city solicitor, who had asked the State Ethics Commission, that we were not allowed to discuss it and not allowed to take any formal action as a board, despite the fact that other cities have already done this. Apparently they didn't bother to ask the State Ethics Commission. So we have this opinion from the State Ethics Commission, and we are considering what to do. I know I would I support divestment. I think most of my colleagues, if not all of my colleagues, do as well. But we are now faced with a legal opinion that we're not, for conflict of interest reasons, that, to be honest, don't really make a lot of sense to me, but that's what we've been told by the State Ethics Commission. Because of these conflict of interest reasons, we cannot act as a board. So we're now considering our options, waiting for more information about what this means exactly. What if we defied the State Ethics Commission? Could there be reprimands, fines? We want to consider that and then decide what to do.
Who is the retirement board and who picks them?
There are 2 members that are elected by all the retirees, all the people in the pension fund. There's an appointee of the mayor, and the finance director, Ed Bean, is on it.
I'll put you on the spot a little bit, and I'll ask you, either as an individual or as an alderman, what do you think this city should do, and what do you feel about divestment and climate change? I know you rode your bike here, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I think that divestment from investments in fossil fuels is the only sane thing to do. It's both ethically and financially and economically the intelligent and right thing to do. I think these are bad investments that are likely to tank, and that's bad for our retirees, as well as the fact that carbon is fouling our atmosphere and will eventually destroy the planet. So to me, it's a no-brainer. And I'm going to speak out as much as I can on this. I've already asked the city solicitor for an opinion on whether, as an individual alderman, I can lobby the the retirement board, send letters, speak publicly, etc. I just want to check before I do so. The mayor already said in his inauguration speech that he supported it, so I assume that it's fine if he did it, but I'm waiting for that opinion, and then I'll do everything I can to push for this.
You can find out more about the Somerville campaign at fossilfreesomerville.org.
Well, that wraps up this newscast. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back on May 6th.
But don't just tune in once every 2 weeks. Check us out on Facebook and share your favorite segment, or send a tweet at SCATV SNN. We welcome you to get involved with Somerville Neighborhood News.
What's happening on your block? Who's your neighborhood hero? What issues aren't being covered? Become a reporter or send in your ideas. Call the SCATV studio at 617-628-8826 or write to news@scatvsomerville.org. I'm Em Nguyen.
And I'm Andrew McLeod. See you around the neighborhood.